What's up, everyone? I'm Xavier Hunter here, and today we have a very special guest. We have the most decorated wrestler of all time, most decorated American wrestler, I should say, of all time, multi-time world champion and Olympic gold medalist, South Jersey's own, the one, the only Jordan Burroughs. Jordan, man, welcome. How you feeling, man?
I'm well, brother. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate you being here.
No problem. Appreciate you taking the time to be with me today, man. So you're back at home in South Jersey. Wonderful homecoming, man. Just so far, how's it feel to be back home?
It's beautiful, bro. I've been in Philly I just hit 2 years. We've been in Philly. I grew up in Sicklerville, South Jersey, went to Winslow Township High School. But when I left for college, I stayed there for a long time. So I went to University of Nebraska, graduated from high school 2006, and I stayed there all the way until the summer of 2021. So my life had drastically changed when I came back to the crib. But one of the things that I wanted to do is to give back to the community once I arrived. And so we've been doing our best to do that since. And now we got a big opportunity to do it on a large scale this weekend.
Awesome, awesome. So you got a big event. You got over 200 kids coming to your wrestling event, man. So I want to know, how important is it for you to introduce wrestling to, more communities and create that accessibility?
It's big, man. I mean, when I was growing up, if you were black, you played basketball or football. That was the bottom line. Everybody wanted to be nice on the court or nice on the field because it was glamorous. You wanted to make money. You wanted to, have the girls love you and be in the stands and wear your jersey. Like that didn't really exist for wrestling. It was kind of taboo and it wasn't really celebrated. So when I got introduced to the sport as a young man, I realized that it was more about honor and about respect and conduct than it was about just glitz and glamour. But as I got older, like you start to recognize that wrestling is a great martial art for MMA, and a lot of boxers were former wrestlers. But I think that what I want to do is I want to introduce young men and women to the sport because it can change your life and it can develop character and it can send you to college for free and it can teach you about discipline and integrity and honor and resilience, all those things that you can't really get from a lot of sport. You can get those at a young age in wrestling. So that's what I hope to give.
So at what age did you start growing into wrestling? And when did you realize that you wanted to pursue this as a professional?
Yeah, I was six, bro. I was six when I started. I was a little guy. 45 pounds was my first weight class. And when I first realized I could maybe do this at the next level, go to college, get a scholarship, I was probably maybe 16 when I was like, okay, I want to do this at the next level. Like, I want to be elite. And then once I got to college is when I started to maybe consider the possibility of going on to wrestle for Team USA, Olympic and World Championships. So, there are multiple avenues. Like, I never really dreamed of being an Olympian when I was a little kid. I grew up in a town where there weren't Olympians and no one in my family wrestled. So, like, I watched the Olympics on TV like every kid every 4 years, but I didn't imagine myself being in that space because I wasn't really an elite competitor as a young man. So yeah, the dream was different, but I just tried to bloom where I was planted. Every single kind of era and phase of my wrestling career, I just tried to be as good as I could. And then when I got to the next level, just replicated it every time.
Nice, nice. You described how you was growing up. You didn't really see, Olympians or just that goal growing up. For those who may know, describe what it's like growing up in South Jersey.
Yeah, it's cool. I loved it, bro. Because I got the best of both worlds. I was telling these guys, I used to go to the Salvation Army for summer camps when I was a kid. My parents both worked in Philly. My mom went to Camden High. So like they grew up in the city and it was different. I was in the suburbs. I was in Sicklerville. So like there were a lot of people who had moved from Camden and from Philly to live in Sicklerville. So like you had that balance of it was gritty, but it was also a little refined. But a lot of summers I would spend a lot of time in the city, so it toughened me up because my life was easy. My we always had food, like we had a big screen TV. I had all the video games, and like I rode the bus to school, so like life was easy. I didn't have to fight every day. But when I spent time in the city, I really enjoyed that because I'm like, man, this is what the experience is like to be fully submerged in culture with diversity, with people that look like you. And that really helped refine me and then also helped me to be kind of like a social chameleon. I could operate in any setting. Because I would go back to Sicklerville and I'd be on a white wrestling team, but I would go to the city and spend time with all of my buddies and my mom's friends and their little ones, and it was a cool experience for me. So I enjoyed it.
Awesome, awesome. Now, with your event at the Croc Center, describe, would you be able to see, elements of yourself as a younger former yourself, as you're going through these kids, as you're teaching with them, as you're going to speak with them as well?
Yeah, 100%, bro. That's the goal here is when we even started to go through the registration process, we wanted to extend it to young men and women that were in the area in Camden that hadn't seen the sport before, who were unfamiliar, who already had been to events here, but never been to wrestling or never been introduced to any form of combat sport. Once we exhausted our opportunities here, then we started to expand to a few other communities in the area. And, we've got over 200 kids that are signed up for the event. So that makes it extremely fun. But I think what I want to see is I want to see individuals who are open to learning something new, who want to experience something different, and who are willing to let their guards down and be vulnerable, even if it's only for a day. Because I think wrestling is a great sport. So when I see them, I see myself. Because if you would have looked at me as a 10 or 12-year-old, no one would have expected me to be the best in the world. So I think that what I see is an opportunity to inspire a new generation, plant that seed of excellence, and then hopefully they'll have the individuals in their community and in their families to cultivate that seed and help them grow into great athletes someday.
Love it. So far you are doing this in Camden, but do you plan on being able to do, other events throughout the country or throughout the state within the area?
Yeah, for sure. So I work with a program named Beat the Streets, and Beat the Streets, its job is to get kids in the inner city off the streets and into the wrestling rooms. Wrestling is a cheap sport, right? Like if you think of some of the more popular sports in this country, like you need equipment, you need a ball and cleats and a bat and all these different things. But in wrestling, you really don't need a whole lot. Like I grew up wrestling with my friends and family right on the living room floor, and so that's how I learned to be tough. And I think that what I've done with Beat the Streets is we go to the biggest cities, and in their urban areas, places like Chicago and Cleveland and Baltimore and LA and New York City and Philly. And we try to get kids that have never seen the sport before and that may have difficulties at home, give them a safe haven, a place where they can get mentorship and wise counsel and good food and lift weights and be surrounded by peers that want to be great too, and they can rub shoulders with those guys and become excellent.
Awesome, awesome. So also piggybacking into the future now, I want to know what are your plans with the Olympics month? You're going to be in Paris next year?
That's the goal. That's the goal. I still have to make the team. So we have the Olympic trials are in April of 2024, but I'm in prime position to be able to do it again. I've competed in two Olympics, multiple world championships. Like I feel good about my chances, but again, it's tough. It's hard. But I think I'm the oldest guy on Team USA, and you know I recognize my athletic mortality in this sport, where I'm on the older scale in terms of what how old Olympians typically are, at least in this sport. But yeah, man, I think my chances are great. I'm excited about the opportunity to try to do it again and go to Paris. And I got my little ones at home that are now wrestling, and I get to teach them almost daily, which is a lot of fun. And I get to do events like this. I've got a wrestling club in South Jersey called the All I See Is Gold Academy. So, if I'm not doing it myself and competing in it, I'm teaching someone else how to do it. That's my life.
So what are you looking most forward to, outside of wrestling right now? You're running a lot of clinics, but what are some things that you have your hands in?
Yeah, man. I want to build a high performance training center in South Jersey has always been my goal. I want to have an elite facility for great wrestlers to become men and women and establish who they are in their lives through the sport of wrestling. I want to, continue to I've dabbled in different spaces like doing broadcasting. I've commentated on the Olympic Games for NBC. I've done the NCAA championships for ESPN. And I'd like to continue to dwell in a number of spaces. But I got a lot of kids at home. We've got four little ones, and we're not showing any signs of stopping. My oldest is 9, our youngest is 2, and I really just want to raise men and women of integrity, good people that I can send out to the world to do great things and change the world. So that's what excites me too. I want to spend a lot of time with my family.
What are some of the values that you've learned through wrestling? You described like a lot of characteristics so far, but what have you learned?
Persistence, resilience, just getting humbled, getting your butt kicked, and coming back and trying again without losing enthusiasm. Putting yourself in a position where you can be vulnerable and you can be transparent. Like this is hard and sometimes it sucks, but it's making me a better person. And the rewards are that much valuable once you've gone through the difficulty. So yeah, I mean that's really the perspective of this sport, and that's what I think everyone has to embrace is that you're not going to make lot of money from this. You're not going to gain a lot of recognition. You're not going to have the stands filled with a lot of beautiful ladies. But what you will do is gain honor and respect amongst your peers and contemporaries. And that goes a long way.
Hey, and even with that, everything else will follow if you take care of business. So be
That's it.
successful like you.
That's it, bro. You already
Awesome.
know.
All right, hey man, I want to know what next can we see from Jordan Burroughs? So we got a lot of things in the works, but what can we expect to
Yeah,
see?
yeah, for sure, man. I'm starting a podcast soon called the All I See Is Gold podcast, which I'm excited about. It'll be based in sports. So our goal is to meet individuals of excellence in their particular fields, in their crafts, and talk about how they became great. You know, what's the tangible advice? What are the actionable items that you can use to be great? Everyone shows the rewards of success, but very few people show the steps. I want to give people the rundown, in depth look at what it takes to be successful. We got so much wealth and knowledge and so much information, but I think a lot of it jades us because we don't really know what to do. It's like, well, I know I want to be rich and I know I want to be an entrepreneur. I just don't really know the steps to get there. So I think that's the focus of the podcast. It's teach individuals how to be great, and then also to just continue to elevate my profile, man. I'm thinking about how to build this sport, how to make it great, but also how to preserve my body and have sustainability in this sport and continue to compete at a high level well into my 30s and stay fit and be a great dad and husband all at the same time. It's a blur.
Oh man, so talking about competing, with the longevity, have you talked about, looking anywhere else, branch out with your wrestling career?
Yeah, I've thought about MMA. I thought about going to the UFC and transitioning into mixed martial arts. That's something that I've considered quite a bit. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say with absolute certainty that it's something that I would do, but I can also close the door on that chapter because I think it could be something I transition well to. So that's something that I'm thinking about within the next few years is maybe making a transition to MMA and seeing what that looks like for me.
Well, definitely looking forward to seeing that. You've already got a ton of success here on the wrestling stage, so I'm sure the transition, would be seamless for you.
Thanks, bro.